Have you ever been at a party, completely surrounded by people, and just felt entirely alone? It's a heavy feeling, right? Well, let's dive right into this fascinating explainer on an emotion almost every human on Earth has experienced. Today, we're going to examine the deep psychological and philosophical roots of why we actually feel lonely. It's an emotion that's literally shaped humanity, from our very first civilizations all the way up to our modern digital age. We're going to unpack the concept itself, taking a journey through sociology, psychology, and honestly, some truly mind-bending philosophy to understand exactly what happens inside our heads when we feel so isolated.
But before we just start pointing fingers at modern life, we have to ask a really fundamental question. What exactly is loneliness? I mean, if you grab a dictionary, it'll probably say it's just the sadness of being by yourself or lacking friends. And sociologists, they might tell you it's the gap between the social connections you want and the ones you actually have. But as we'll see today, solving this isn't quite as simple as just adding a few more people to your contacts list.
Section 1. The global loneliness epidemic.
Okay, so we constantly hear people say that loneliness is the disease of our modern era, kind of like depression. But what does the actual data say about how widespread this is? Well, according to a massive October 2023 Gallup poll, 1.5 billion, that is the staggering number of people on Earth feeling lonely right now. This was a massive study. They surveyed around 142,000 people across 142 different countries. It's literally the largest study of its kind, capturing a snapshot of about 77% of the entire global population. So, hey, if you're feeling isolated, just know that 1.5 billion other humans are sitting right there with you. To put that into perspective, the reality is that 1 in 4 adults over the age of 15 globally is carrying this weight right now. And what's really wild about this data is just how incredibly consistent it is. Men and women report feeling lonely at practically the exact same rates. Across almost all adult age groups, the number just holds totally steady at 25%, and it only dips slightly to about 17% for folks over the age of 65. But here's the thing. This isn't just an emotional burden. The physical toll is absolutely real. The World Health Organization warns that the physical impact of this isolation, which is linked to high blood pressure, anxiety, depression, and even cognitive decline, is just as deadly as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. In fact, in late 2023, the WHO officially declared loneliness a severe global health threat. So we know it exists, and we know it's incredibly dangerous, but the whole phenomenon still remains really difficult to measure and pinpoint.
Section 2. Searching for the root cause.
A lot of people immediately blame our modern digital world for this epidemic. And it makes sense, right? If you've got 1,000 friends on Facebook, followers on Instagram, and you're constantly on WhatsApp, how on earth could you possibly feel alone? Well, philosopher Byung-Chul Han argues that our digital age traps us in what he calls hyper-communication. Basically, it's this noisy, superficial exchange of information that completely lacks the intimacy required to actually cure loneliness. We're constantly firing off memes, tweets, and work files, but without any true dialogue. Han suggests this creates a massive amount of digital noise that merely distracts us temporarily. But let's be real here. Even in face-to-face interactions, like awkward small talk at family gatherings or chatting about sports at the office, we often just stay stuck in that superficial layer, heading home at night with our loneliness still sitting right there on our shoulders. And if we look back a bit further, political theorist Hannah Arendt noted in the 1950s, way before social media even existed, that totalitarian regimes intentionally isolate people to suppress free thought. By crushing the public sphere and killing meaningful dialogue, authoritarian power forces individuals into extreme isolation so they can dictate ideology completely unopposed. Yet, while that explains a certain type of societal isolation, loneliness still exists universally across all of time and space, even in completely free societies. So think about it. If social media and political systems are really just amplifiers rather than the root cause, then where does this feeling actually come from? Humans have always feared isolation. From ancient religious texts all the way back to early evolutionary survival, we are terrified of being alone. We've got to look deeper.
Section 3. An innate human condition.
This brings us to a really profound paradigm shift introduced by Hungarian philosopher and psychoanalyst Ben Lazare Majewskiewicz. This guy spent 40 years of his life analyzing the concept of loneliness, writing 4 books and dozens of articles on it. Majewskiewicz reveals that loneliness isn't just some external glitch caused by lack of friends or spending too much time on your phone. It is an innate human condition. It's literally built directly into our consciousness. See, we realize that we are entirely separate biological entities, isolated from the external world.
Yet, our thoughts and concepts constantly reach out to that external world. This contradiction creates this relentless, burning desire to dissolve into the world around us, kind of like sugar dissolving in hot tea. But because we physically can't do that, we feel lonely.
Now, what's truly fascinating here is the realization that almost all human endeavors, whether it's seeking love or forming entire societies, are essentially just attempts to escape this inherent biological isolation. Medjusevic argues this drive actually supersedes even our desire for intimacy or connection. It is our primary motivator right after basic biological needs like food and water. Everything we build, even the wars we fight to expand our sense of belonging, stems from this desperate need to break out of our internal isolation.
Section 4. The Mirror Stage. To truly grasp this internal separation, we have to understand how we even form our sense of self in the first place. Because if we're inherently isolated, who is the I that's feeling so alone? French psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan called this the mirror stage. Somewhere between the ages of 6 and 18 months, a child looks in the mirror and recognizes their own reflection for the very first time. It is the exact moment we realize we are separate, independent individuals. And crucially, Lacan argues that our entire concept of self is built on how we see ourselves reflected back by the outside world, whether that's in an actual physical mirror or just in the eyes and reactions of the people around us.
This bridges perfectly to that famous pop culture question sung by Egyptian artists like Abdelbaset Hamouda and Hakim, "Who am I?" We actually cannot know who we are without the other acting as our mirror. Think about it for a second. Whether you define yourself as a parent, an employee, tall, short, generous, or belonging to a certain nationality, all of these labels require the existence of other people. We need others just to perceive our own existence. Section 5. The Power of True Connection. So the big question, how do we fix this? Well, it starts with forging connections that actually reflect our true selves back to us. To overcome that internal separation, we absolutely must abandon the superficial digital noise and actively invest in empathetic, genuine listening. Both Byung-Chul Han and Mijaskovic agree here. True connection relies on exchanging deep emotions, finding common ground, and listening patiently to what's said between the lines, far beyond the bullet points and carefully curated social media masks. Furthermore, like Hannah Arendt suggests, we have to engage actively in the public sphere to actually build better communities together.
Because here's the reality. When we surround ourselves with 1,000 superficial contacts, but have absolutely no true intimacy, it's literally like looking into a broken, distorted funhouse mirror. We can't see our true reflection in their eyes, and consequently, we become lost, completely unable to see our true place in the world. This is exactly why you can feel completely isolated in a crowded room, or when you have thousands of online followers. The mirrors around you simply aren't reflecting the real you.
Section 6. The Art of Healthy Solitude.
So what happens when the day ends, you put your head on the pillow, and you're left entirely alone with your own thoughts? To stop this from spiraling into despair, you have to learn to comfortably converse with your conceptual self. That's the internal version of you built from all your interactions with the outside world. To do this in a healthy way, you have to reflect thoughtfully on the external world and the people in it. If you turn completely inward and only think about yourself, you fall right into that modern trap of endless narcissistic overthinking. You know the feeling, obsessing over who said what to you and what you should have said back.
Maintaining balance is absolutely key here. Spending way too much time in total isolation can lead to intense psychological distress, like extreme narcissism or severe anxiety, simply because you lose touch with reality. You end up talking to an internal reflection that's no longer being updated by the real world. We must always maintain a healthy balance. Taking time to sit peacefully with ourselves, sure, but continuously returning to the public sphere to keep our internal mirrors accurate and healthy.
Ultimately, I want to leave you with this really profound thought to reflect on. Loneliness isn't just an empty room. It's an empty mirror. Overcoming the human condition isn't about the sheer size of the crowd you gather, but rather the depth of the true self you discover through genuine connection. Until next time, keep seeking those clear reflections.